Hey guys, what's going on? This is the conservative speaking, and I wanted to talk about why Joe Biden's leadership is not only dangerous for the American people, but dangerous for the world. Um, in case you guys haven't heard, Russia has invaded Ukraine, and and the way they were able to invade Ukraine was Crimea. There are Russian tanks that have come into the place of Ukraine, and um, and Russia not only is Russia invading Ukraine through tanks, but they're also invading them through the air and also by sea through to the ships. Um, there are 130 that are reported dead from um, from Russia coming in to fight Ukraine over the land. And it looks like Russia is making their way to the capital of Kyiv. And we all know once a country takes over um, the main capital, and once they take over the government, all I mean it could be all but over for Ukraine, as Russia will be able to then successfully take over Ukraine. And the U.S. response to this, well, see for yourself.
We would impose the most severe sanctions ever levied on Russia if Putin proceeded with the invasion. Today, we're following through. We will impose sanctions on Russia's two largest financial institutions, Sberbank and VTB, which together hold more than half of the Russian banking system's assets, over $750 billion in total. For VTB, we will freeze all of its assets touching the U.S. financial system and prohibit U.S. persons from doing any business with the bank. For Sberbank, we will sever its access to the U.S. financial system. We'll also freeze the assets of and prohibit any business dealings with three additional Russian banks with combined assets of over $70 billion. We'll also restrict U.S. investors from providing debt or equity financing for 13 of the most critical Russian state-owned enterprises, which combined have estimated assets nearing $1.5 trillion. And finally, we'll also impose sanctions on the executives at these state-owned institutions, as well as additional Russian elites who are complicit in Putin's kleptocracy, and their family members. Those developed in historically close coordination with the European Union, Australia, Japan, Canada, New Zealand, the United Kingdom, and Taiwan. These new measures include sweeping restrictions on Russian military end users to impair Putin's military capabilities, and will also deny exports across Russia to sensitive cutting-edge technology, primarily targeting Russia's defense, aerospace, and maritime sectors. In total, the United States and our partners will effectively be cutting off more than half of all high-tech imports going into Russia. This includes curbing Russia's access to advanced semiconductors and other foundational technologies that Russia needs to diversify and modernize. These impacts over time will translate into higher inflation, higher interest rates, lower purchasing power, lower investment.
So they plan on putting in economic sanctions. That's how they're going to stick it to Russia. So they're going to go after the banks, um, and 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 go after some of Russia's elites. Blah blah blah. It looks like they're not really. It looks as if they don't really have a real solution. It looks like they're gonna go after some of their state banks, but they're not going after the real um, core of the financial institutions. Keep in mind, they they state that they're gonna go after several banks. Maybe about 10, or maybe about maybe maybe several of their banks. But keep in mind, Russia has over 1,100 financial institutions in that country. So going after a few banks um, is not necessarily going to stop Putin from bringing in his army to take over another country. All right. And if the U.S. thinks that this is going to have a swift imposing penalty onto Putin, Putin clearly has not gotten the message, because his troops and his troops, his tanks, um, and and his fighter jets, and the airplanes are still in Ukraine. But this is what they say. They say that this is going to take over a period of time, and over a period of time, Russia is going to feel the effects of invading Ukraine. As a matter of fact, they already said that Russia was able to see an inflation, and that the currency has dropped. Keep in mind, inflation only hurts one specific amount of people, and that is the working class and the lower class. It does not affect the rich. While the rich may lose money, the rich will not lose their riches. All right. So it looks like the people of Russia are going to suffer, and it looks like Putin is looking to, Putin is willing to throw his people under the bus to do so, but this is not going to stop Putin. This is going to make the people of Russia suffer, but it won't make Putin suffer, because Putin will still be able to come out and and take over the very country that he wants to take over. And best believe, by the way it looks like Russia will successfully invade and take over the Ukraine. I mean, they put in these economic sanctions, along with cutting edge technology sanctions, stating that these other countries um, won't be able to give Russia the cutting edge technology that they need. Well, there's already a country that's already ahead of the U.S. when it comes to cutting edge technology, and that's China. And we all know that Russia and China are literally like this. They are like this. All right. Who's to say that Russia cannot get their cutting edge technology from China? Why does Russia really need to get their cutting edge technology from any other country? I mean, China practically owns everything, so why wouldn't Russia do business with China? And Russia and China are very close to one another. Amazing. So Joe Biden's response to this is imposing economic sanctions. Meanwhile, Russia is coming in. All right, they're actively bombing, um, bombing buildings, killing people. All right, um, taking over parts of the Ukraine, and making their way towards the capital. Towards the governing capital of Ukraine. And we all know, once you take over the government of a country, that country will be will be destabilized. Amazing. All I can say is that if the Great White Hope, Donald Trump, was in office, Russia doesn't even think about invading Ukraine. It wouldn't even be a thought for Putin. All right, Putin respect Trump enough, and knew exactly where Trump would take it if Ukraine even, I mean, if Russia even thought about invading Ukraine. So once again, the world leaders are taking, I mean, are viewing this. They are observing this. They're seeing how Joe Biden is handling this, and clearly they're seeing that Joe Biden is a complete walkover. All right. If you don't believe me, just keep this in mind. How is it that when the Great White Hope Donald Trump was in office from 2016 to 2020, that no countries even thought about um, invading uh, other bordering countries that other allies in the world would have took offense to? How is it that, I mean, Russia had an opportunity to do this when Donald Trump was in office? How come it didn't happen when Trump was in office, but all of a sudden now Russia is invading Ukraine when Joe Biden is in office? Simple, because nobody respects Joe Biden. They know that Joe Biden is not a leader. He's a weak, pathetic, pitiful, sorry excuse of a man. All right. I just find it very, very, very odd. Well, actually, I mean, I find it funny that America is more that America is more invested in wanting to protect the borders of a foreign country, but they're not. But they're willing to not protect the borders of the very own country that are bringing in illegal aliens, that are bringing in crime, drugs, disease, the whole nine. I find it very, very funny that this country and that this administration is more focused on protecting the borders of a foreign country, but failing to want to protect the borders of their own country. And this is the reason why the United States is the laughing stock of the world. This is why no other countries take us seriously. We are weak. Once again, putting Americans dead last. Amazing. I find that don't you guys find that odd? You know what I mean? They're even, I mean, like this administration is even talking about taking in Ukrainian refugees, as if we need more um, more people, as if we need more foreigners in this country who will not assimilate to American culture and values and of the Constitution. That's right. The solution is to bring in more un-Americans into this country. That's what's going to make American great. Amazing. People, you are being sold out by this very government, all right, for their own gain. And and you know, and and obviously everybody knows that, and I think all the world leaders know that they can practically do whatever they want. All right. The Russian invasion on Ukraine is the tipping point. Make no mistake about it. Putin wants to restore the Soviet Union, and he knows that he has the opportunity to do so as long as we have the Great White Dope in office, because he knows that Biden is not going to do a damn thing about it. But Biden is not going to stop Putin from taking over Ukraine and other neighboring countries. I mean, the next the next neighboring country to the Ukraine is Poland. What's going to stop Russia from invading Poland? Best believe me when I tell you, all right? Putin wants to restore the Soviet Union. And by the looks of it, it looks like he will. And if he does that, what's going to stop China from invading Taiwan? Like, do you think President Xi really respects Biden? Absolutely not. They know that they can invade Taiwan. If Russia can do this to the Ukraine, if Russia can take over the Ukraine, what's stopping China from taking over Taiwan? Absolutely nothing. Okay. And do you really think that Biden is going to want to go after China, especially considering that China holds the vast majority of our goods and services, of our goods for the most part? Okay. Also, keep in mind, China holds a vast majority of our debt. If they if they choose to sell off our debt, you can kiss the middle class goodbye. This country will really be the class of the haves and the have-nots, meaning that if you don't fall within the 1% of earners, all right, you can wind up on the streets. This America will belong only to the elites. We know that it's the middle class that makes up America. All right, 52%, 52% of Americans are make up the middle class. 52% compared to 19% of upper class and 26% of lower class. You take the middle class away, you have no America. You will have an America that looks like a third world country. And that's the reason why Biden won't go after China. All right? And let's be honest, if they really, 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 really cared about, I mean, if they really, really wanted to cripple Russia and really, really cripple Putin and really, really, really sanction Putin the way that they really should, they will go after the energy sector, which makes up a pool of money that Russia is then using to, which Russia is using to operate the military, to even try to take over a country like Ukraine, like the Ukraine. All right, they will go after Russia's energy sector, but you won't see Biden touching Russia when it comes to imposing sanctions on the energy sector. But why not? Oh, could it be because America is Russia's main customer when it comes to the energy sector, meaning that the United States is is energy dependent on Russia. Yes. All right. Over 232 million barrels of oil was imported from Russia. From October of last year. 232 million barrels of oil was imported from Russia. If you don't believe me, watch this.
Is something that we should be sanctioning and going after. This would, as we watch the price of crude just soar, as we watch Putin make more money off selling barrels of crude and oil and gas to Europe. And frankly, I was flabbergasted at a hearing yesterday, not a hearing, a briefing, where I found out that the United States of America, Vlad and Emery, is taking in over 595,000 barrels a day of crude oil from Russia. What we need is American energy independence. And that was shut off over a year ago. And we started in 2021 taking these hundreds of thousands of barrels a day from Russia. So
Amazing stuff, huh? We could have easily became energy independent had the Keystone Pipeline, if the Keystone Pipeline was implemented and was carried out the same way it was carried out through Donald Trump. The reason why we became energy dependent is because Joe Biden stopped the construction of the Keystone Pipeline, which would have made us energy independent because we would have been able to get the oil from our neighboring country, Canada. It also would have created a lot of jobs, plenty of jobs from that sector. The fact that Joe Biden even cut off or even halted the construction of the Keystone Pipeline, he immediately eliminated 11,000 jobs. So not only were we energy dependent, but but jobs were lost as well. Economy producing jobs were lost. And instead, we are spending tax dollars in purchasing um, over 230 million barrels of oil from Russia. So now we're independent. So now we're energy dependent on Russia, using our tax dollars to do it, and that's what's causing the price of gas to skyrocket. Amazing, amazing. So Joe Biden cut off the opportunity for America to become energy independent, and decided to become energy dependent on OPEC countries. The very countries that are now using our tax dollars to strengthen their military, which Russia is doing, to go out and invade countries like Ukraine and make their country, and be able to then strengthen their country to then be able to take over other countries, and make them impossible for them to flex their muscle and impose their will. Amazing. And it's our tax dollars right now that is responsible for buildings being bombed and 130 people being killed right now in the Ukraine, and making um several thousand, I mean, hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians to now become refugees. They have no choice but to flee, or they can choose to fight with the very guns that the Ukrainian government gave the citizens. But what the Ukrainian government is saying to the people is, you guys have to uh, fight for yourselves. Every man for themselves. As Russia will now come in and do the very thing that Putin wanted to do for a long time. Amazing. Again, once again, showing how weak and pathetic and pitiful Joe Biden is. This is why this is a living proof that no world leader is putting respect on Joe Biden's name. Nobody respects Joe Biden. And if you don't respect Joe Biden, then you do not respect America. And trust me, this is only the beginning. All right? This is only the beginning, because you're going to start to see other countries that are opposing of us to now go in and invade other countries. And all we're going to do is sit back and watch. Why? Because Joe Biden is not a leader, he's a loser. All right. The very first YouTube video that I made on my channel was about Joe Biden being a loser and not a leader, and I was able to prove it. All right. Everybody's seen the debacle in Afghanistan. That was the first take. Everybody's seen the way Joe Biden handled the crisis in Afghanistan. The Taliban. I mean, everybody's seen the collapse of the Afghan government when the Taliban invaded Afghanistan. Um, took over the government. Had the president of Afghan fleeing along with the money that 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 he was able to sit on as being president of that country. Practically left his people fending for themselves. 85 billion with a B. $85 billion worth of stockpile, from weapons to tanks to helicopters, were left in Afghanistan for the Taliban to feast on. Okay? I mean, Hundreds of people, yet hundreds of U.S. people are still stuck in Afghanistan. But guess what? 76,000 Afghan refugees, all right, those Allahu Akbar speaking people, were brought into America. There were more. Allahu Akbar people that were brought into America than the hundreds of Americans that are still trapped in Afghanistan because due to the Taliban taking over that country. Amazing. I guess America cared more about people who will not assimilate to U.S. culture or the Constitution or American values. They value them over the very patriots that chose to serve their country. Once again, another example of how Joe Biden is making American people last again. All right? They seen how Joe Biden packed up his stuff and his military and left while leaving service people behind, the very people who served this country. He left his own people behind. And then when he went back to try to get his, and then when he realized the mistake and then try to go back and get his people, to get the American people who served this very country, who put their lives on the line to keep us U.S. citizens safe, he was then punked by the Taliban, this so-called terrorist group called the Taliban, who went and said, "Get your people out by the 30th, or else." Keep in mind, the Taliban took over Afghanistan on August 15th, and 15 days later, gave an ultimatum stating that the U.S. military should get their people out by the 30th, or else. And rather than Joe Biden standing tall and saying, "Hey, listen, we'll leave when we get all of our people out," because Joe Biden made the mistake of leaving the very people behind in the first place. Joe Biden complied with the Taliban and said, "Okay, all right, we're leaving by the 30th," and then Joe Biden's excuse was, "Well, we've been there for over 20 years. It's been a long war, and we need to get out of there anyway." The weakness that the other world leaders saw from a weak, pathetic, frail, incompetent loser like Joe Biden is what set it off. You don't think Putin was watching? That's the reason why Putin is in Ukraine right now, because he knows that Biden is just going to stand by. And best believe, if Putin can invade Ukraine, President Xi will invade Taiwan. Mark my word, it's coming down the barrel. Amazing. But let me know what you guys think. Leave a comment in the comment section after you subscribe to my channel. Click the like button if you like the video. Share this video. And subscribe to my channel, as I'll be able to provide you content on the double. Also, when you subscribe to my channel, click on the notification button so that you'll be able to be notified when my channel is dropping new content. And with that being said, this is D Conservative signing out. Have a blessed day, guys.